Chapter 1321. Holy sh*t, you really can do any kind of business. It seems that no matter who comes to your place, they can't leave without paying a bit of money, right? Xiao Chen was so surprised that he couldn't close his mouth and couldn't help but blurt out. He couldn't believe that an ordinary peddler could actually have so many connections. It turned out that this was just a shell company. Hey, how can you say that? Do you know how to chat? You don't have spirit crystals and yet you're so poor and arrogant. What's there to be arrogant about? Are you in the right or something? Hearing Xiao Chen's words, the peddler suddenly became anxious. He widened his eyes and pointed at Xiao Chen's nose as he scolded. Forget it, Xiao Chen, let's go somewhere else and ask. Don't bicker with him. Seeing that the two were about to quarrel, Hongzhu was afraid that the matter would escalate and become difficult to resolve. After all, they were currently in the cultivation world and were unfamiliar with the people and the place. So, he hurriedly pulled Xiao Chen away. TCH, you don't have money and yet you're asking all sorts of questions. What a waste of my saliva. Looking at the two disappearing figures, the peddler rolled his eyes and cursed a few times. He couldn't be bothered to bicker with them and continued to loudly hawk his wares. After walking for a while, Hongzhu felt a bit hungry. However, he didn't have any spirit crystals on him. So, he could only rub his stomach and stare at the stalls selling steamed buns and sesame seed cakes on the side of the road in an attempt to quench his thirst. Seeing Hongzhu's pitiful appearance, Xiao Chen helplessly smiled. He pointed at a nearby restaurant and said, "Let's just go in and eat something. We can also find out what spirit crystals are while we're at it. Maybe that restaurant accepts money from the secular world? Then, all right. Let's go in and take a look." Although Hongzhu didn't hold much hope in his heart, he had no other choice but to give it a try. So, he obediently followed Xiao Chen into the restaurant. "Two guests, please come in. Are you here for a meal or to stay?" The boss behind the counter was a middle-aged woman, and she looked quite familiar. Seeing that there were customers, she immediately ordered the waiter to pour 2 cups of hot tea. "Hello, lady boss. It's our first time here and we're not familiar with the situation here. That's why we wanted to ask you about something." Xiao Chen cupped his fists and bowed. "What is it? Ask away. I'll tell you if I know." The lady boss had good self-restraint. Seeing that Xiao Chen and the others were not here to eat, she did not get angry. Instead, she spoke politely. Xiao Chen nodded and asked with a smile, "I heard that this place uses something called spirit crystals as currency to buy things. However, we only have ordinary banknotes on us now, so I'd like to ask if we can use them to pay the bill." "Oh, right, you can also pay by card." In order to show that he didn't have any spirit crystals on him, Xiao Chen took out a stack of money from the secular world and a bank card. However, he had also set up a bank card in the secular world. The lady boss took Xiao Chen's money in surprise and carefully looked at it. She shook her head and looked at the bank card in Xiao Chen's hand. She frowned and said, "You two are from out of town, right? This. I've never seen this kind of paper before. Also, this card looks different from our spirit crystal cards, so it shouldn't be useful." The lady boss returned the 100 banknotes to Xiao Chen and sighed awkwardly, indicating that she couldn't help even if she wanted to. After thinking for a while, Xiao Chen asked, "I see, then may I ask, what exactly is this spirit crystal?" As for the spirit crystal. The lady boss hesitated for a moment and carefully looked at Xiao Chen and Hongzhu. She felt that the two of them were indeed outsiders. It just so happened that someone was paying with spirit crystals at this time. She took the spirit crystal and raised it in her hand, indicating to Xiao Chen, "Look, this is spirit crystal. It's actually quite common." "Ah. Isn't this spirit jade?" Hongzhu exclaimed in a low voice as he stared at the spirit crystal in the lady boss's hand. He then lowered his head and dejectedly muttered, "If I knew that this place was the same as the inner martial world and could use spirit jade as currency, I would have brought some with me." Xiao Chen took a closer look and realized that the so-called spirit crystal was indeed spirit jade. However, it looked more refined and pure, as if it had been carefully forged and polished. It was not quite the same as the ordinary spirit jade in the inner martial world. Instead, it was more similar to the high-grade spirit jade that had been refined in the Jia clan's heavenly jade mine. However, although Shao Chen had the backing of the Jia clan, a wealthy spirit jade clan, he had entered the cultivation world empty-handed this time. He didn't bring any spirit jade with him. Previously, Shao Chen had been busy preparing for the sacrificial ceremony and selecting people, so he hadn't considered the issue of what currency was used in the cultivation world. Otherwise, he might have brought a few pieces with him and wouldn't have come empty-handed. In the end, he couldn't do anything now. Lady boss. Did you leave a private room for this young master? Hurry up and serve the good wine and dishes. Today, this young master wants to entertain an important guest. Just as Shao Chen and Hong Zhu were feeling gloomy, a young man suddenly shouted from behind them. His tone was quite high-pitched, so he should be a regular customer of this restaurant. Hee, young Master Zhao, you've come. The lady boss immediately put on a smile and called out in a loud voice, everything has been prepared for you. Moreover, we know that you have an important guest today, so we specially arranged for the purple air from the east private room on the second floor. Please come in, I'll have the waiter serve the dishes for you. The person who had come was obviously a rich man. Just from the lady boss tone and the name of the private room, one could tell that the cost would definitely not be low. Well done. Young Master Zhao nodded his head in satisfaction. He was just about to call for a black-robed old man and a few subordinates behind him to go up the stairs when he turned his head and discovered Hong Zhu standing at the side. He immediately stopped in his tracks and stared blankly, unable to move for a long time. Young Master Zhao carefully sized up Hong Zhu, and the more he looked, the more he felt his heart itch. He looked at that plump and perky chest, that not only was it exquisite and charming, but it was also extremely flirtatious. Every move she made was dazzling. Just that pair of fair and slender legs alone was enough for him to play with for a year. Young Master Zhao's saliva almost flowed out of his mouth. This girl was simply the best. How come he had never seen her before? Hong Zhu felt extremely uncomfortable under young Master Zhao's lecherous gaze and could not help but glare at him, angrily scolding, "What are you looking at? Have you never seen a beauty before? Believe it or not, I'll dig out your eyeballs and feed them to the dogs." Although Hong Zhu had cultivated the charm technique, she was still quite disgusted by this kind of swine who was like a housefly. If not for the fact that it was a mission, she would not have been willing to casually use the charm technique on other men. Heh, you've got quite a hot temper, but this young master likes hot chili peppers like you. Young Master Zhao excitedly raised his eyebrows, approaching Hong Zhu and vigorously sniffing the fragrance on her body, an intoxicated expression on his face. Chapter 13:22. Are you trying to be cheap? Scram back to where you came from, big sister doesn't have time to play games with a yellow-haired brat like you. Hong Zhu immediately took a step back, putting some distance between her and young Master Zhao as she berated him with a look of disgust. Young Master Zhao didn't seem to mind Hong Zhu's disgust in the slightest. Still wearing a seductive expression, he said with a lewd smile, "Little girl, don't say that. Are you interested in having a meal with this young master? This young master promises that he won't treat you unfairly. My woman has no interest in having a meal with you. Go do what you need to do." Shao Chen said coldly from the side before pulling Hong Zhu's hand and preparing to leave the restaurant. Although Shao Chen wasn't too interested in Hong Zhu's usual teasing, she was still his friend after all. Naturally, Shao Chen wouldn't just stand by and watch as she was bullied. This young Master Zhao also didn't seem to be a good person. Adhering to the principle that it was better to avoid trouble, Shao Chen planned to directly leave the restaurant and toss this annoying fly to the back of his mind. "Wait!" Young Master Zhao shouted and waved his hand. His subordinates immediately surrounded Shao Chen and Hong Zhu, blocking their path. "What do you mean?" Shao Chen frowned and asked in a low voice. He was already in a bad mood. If this was the inner martial world or the secular world, he would have long since slapped this good-for-nothing young master who had appeared out of nowhere to death. If it weren't for the fact that he had just arrived in the cultivation world and was completely ignorant of the situation here, how could this guy have the chance to jump around? Without understanding the other party's background and strength, Xiao Qin naturally couldn't choose to act rashly. Nothing much, I just wanted to tell you that you can get lost now. However, this little girl must stay and accompany this young master to have some fun. Although young Master Zhao's tone sounded light and indifferent, his lofty and indisputable attitude was completely revealed. In his opinion, Xiao Qin was nothing more than an unremarkable fellow. Being together with such a beautiful little girl was simply a reckless waste of God's gift. Instead of crippling him, he allowed him to leave on his own. This was already giving him a lot of face. Oh. Do you think I'll stay just because you said so? What if I don't agree? Xiao Chen's expression didn't change, but his heart was already angry. This kind of overbearing and despotic second-rate playboy actually dared to climb all over him? At this time, Xiao Chen already had the intention to kill. At worst, he could directly kill this fool and then use the flying sword to escape. Anyway, with the speed of the flying sword, these people should not be able to catch up in a short time. Oh, you actually dare to challenge this young master? Zhao Wending's face revealed an incredulous expression. He snorted coldly and said, "Originally, I didn't want to let you go, you stinking brat. But now, it seems that if I don't teach you a good lesson and teach you a lesson, you won't know how powerful I, Zhao Wending, am." After saying that, Zhao Wending immediately activated his Heart Sutra and revealed his cultivation. His cold eyes swept over Xiao Qin. His expression was as if he was looking at an ant that was about to be crushed to death by him. The lady boss had already hidden far away. Her face was full of worry as she looked over here. The customers who were originally eating in the restaurant also noticed the movement here. Many people put down their bowls and chopsticks, holding the mentality of watching a good show. Seeing Xiao Chen and Zhao Wending standing face to face, many people looked at Xiao Chen with a trace of pity in their eyes. But no one was willing to speak up for him. It could be seen that Zhao Wending did indeed have some power in this small town. Xiao Chen vigorously rubbed his eyes and looked at Zhao Wending in disbelief. He once thought that he had seen wrong, or that there was a problem with his senses. But when he confirmed again, he found that Zhao Wending's cultivation was still the same as before. At this moment, Zhao Wending, who was standing in front of Xiao Chen, was actually emitting an aura of a cultivation of the 6th level of qi refining stage. Xiao Chen blankly looked at Zhao Wending. Could it be that this guy had deliberately suppressed his strength in order to confuse me and make me have an illusion? But Xiao Chen carefully thought about it again. For a brainless hedonistic son of rich parents like Zhao Wending, and looking at the servants and bodyguards behind him, he reckoned that he had the backing of his family. Zhao Wending shouldn't be able to use a high-level method like attacking something with a feint. This 6th level of qi refining stage was most likely his true strength. This time, Xiao Chen was really confused. Holy sh*t, with just this little bit of strength, he dared to come out and act cool? If I casually rewarded him with a head, and it was the kind where I had to control my strength, this brat would probably have to lie at home and recuperate for half a year. What kind of joke is this? Is this really the world of cultivators? Or have I and Hongzhu been sent to some strange place? Could it be that I and Hongzhu have been sent to some strange place? Isn't this nonsense? At this time, Hongzhu was also staring at Zhao Wending with a strange expression. Although she wasn't a true cultivator and couldn't see through Zhao Wending's strength, judging from his aura, this guy's strength didn't seem to be much higher than hers. Hey, do you know fear now? Seeing Xiao Chen's stupefied appearance, Zhao Wending thought that he had been scared silly by the strength he had displayed. He became even more insufferably arrogant as he said with a face full of arrogance, "If you kneel down right now, properly kowtow to this young master a few times, sincerely apologize, then leave behind the little girl beside you and quickly scram, then I'll forgive you for the time being." Without waiting for Zhao Wending to finish speaking, Xiao Chen yawned and impatiently interrupted him. "Spare my dog life for the time being, right? I'm already tired of hearing this kind of saying. Every time I meet some idiot who thinks he's in love, they always say the same thing. Do you have any other fresh words?" What did you say? Zhao Wending's words were stuck in his throat. When he heard Xiao Chen actually say such words, he thought he had misheard and couldn't help but ask in astonishment. I said that you're extremely cliché. Xiao Chen snorted disdainfully at Zhao Wending and said, moreover, your cultivation is so low, yet you still have the nerve to come out and make a fool of yourself? No wonder you have so many subordinates by your side, it's so that it's convenient for them to collect your corpse, right? Damn it, stinking brat, you still dare to be so stubborn? This young master will make you die without a burial place today. Zhao Wending was instantly enraged. His aura skyrocketed, and just as he was about to rush forward and kill Xiao Chen, he suddenly felt someone pat his shoulder. Young Master Deng, such a small matter isn't worthy of you personally taking action. Let this old man do it for you. The black-robed elder who had been observing from the side patted Zhao Wending's shoulder and blocked his way, staring at Xiao Chen as he spoke in a deep voice. Chapter 1323. Xiao Chen guessed that the old man was probably young Master Deng's chief bodyguard or something. Now that things had gotten out of hand, he naturally couldn't just stand there and pretend not to see anything. However, he didn't know how strong this guy was. Oh, all right then. Thank you, Senior Feng. Zhao Wending was slightly stunned. He hesitated for a moment before nodding his head in agreement. He was so impulsive just now that he almost forgot that he was bringing Senior Feng here for a meal. Senior Feng was a bodyguard that his father had specially hired with a lot of money. Therefore, Zhao Wending had planned to give him a welcoming dinner. He didn't expect to meet this exquisite girl before he even had a meal. Zhao Wending originally wanted to show off in front of the girl, but it turned out that Senior Feng was going to take action on his behalf. It seemed that his wish would be dashed. However, Zhao Wending changed his mind. It was actually quite good to let Senior Feng take action. This way, not only would it save him the trouble of doing it himself, but he could also use him to display the Zhao family's strength. Perhaps that girl would fall in love with him when she saw how strong his bodyguard was? The black-robed old man had a cold smile on his face. He took out a talisman from his pocket and gently pinched it between the fingertips of his left hand. Then, he pushed his right hand forward. The talisman immediately stood up and was wrapped in crimson flames. Throughout the entire process, Xiao Chen stared at the old man's movements with great interest. It seemed that he was trying to figure out what was so awesome about the talisman. After the talisman started burning, the black-robed old man's body began to emit waves of pressure. He then narrowed his eyes at Xiao Chen and shouted, "Kid, show me your magic weapon. I never kill unarmed people. Looks like my luck is pretty good. I've really been sent to the newbie village." When Xiao Chen heard the old man's challenge, he shrugged in boredom and said casually. Although the black-robed old man in front of him looked very imposing, the cultivation that he revealed was only at the first level of the foundation establishment stage. He wasn't much stronger than that arrogant hedonistic young master. What village? Stop wasting time over there, hurry up and give me. The black-robed old man thought that Xiao Chen was deliberately talking about something he didn't understand, so he immediately snorted coldly. However, before the black-robed old man could finish his words, Xiao Chen's figure flashed and suddenly appeared in front of him. Xiao Chen then swung his arm and slapped him. He did not forget to add, "Since you are so eager to die, I will fulfill your wish." What? Ah! The black-robed old man only saw a figure flash in front of him. Before he could catch a glimpse of Xiao Chen's figure, he was slapped hard in the face. The cold smile on his face instantly froze. With a loud bang, the black-robed old man flew out of the restaurant and crashed into several thick walls nearby. He was directly covered in dust and disappeared without a trace. Xiao Chen swung his arm and curled his lips in boredom. Too weak. It's like killing a newbie in a beginner's village. There's no sense of accomplishment at all. So boring. You. Zhao Wending looked at the scene in front of him, dumbfounded. He was speechless for a while. Looking at the dumbfounded Zhao Wending, Xiao Chen scratched his head and asked, "Your name is Zhao. What's it again?" Forget it, it doesn't matter. I will give you two choices now. First, leave your spiritual crystals and get lost with your subordinates. Second, if you have any objections, you can refer to the first one. Kid, tell me your name if you have the guts. Zhao Wendeng snapped back to reality and said through gritted teeth, do you think the Zhao family is so easy to mess with? Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you have some strength. Don't think that you can leave safely after killing the Zhao family. Let me tell you, I will settle this score with you sooner or later. Zhao Wendeng was very depressed at the moment. He thought that Senior Wind could win easily, but he didn't expect him to be sent flying with a single slap. Until now, there was no sign of life at all. He was probably dead. Xiao Chen was about to speak when a group of people walked down slowly from the second floor. The young man in green who was leading the group had a toothpick in his mouth. He looked over with disdain and mocked, Yo, isn't this our famous young master Zhao? Why, bringing a few lackeys out to show off again? Qin Tao Tian. Looking at the newcomer, Zhao Wendeng gnashed his teeth in anger. The fact that Senior Wind had been sent flying had already made him feel aggrieved and displeased. Never had he thought that another fellow would pop up now to mess things up. Thank you for letting me win. I didn't know that young Master Zhao was eating here. Otherwise, I would definitely come over and offer a toast. The young man in green said eccentrically as he pinched his nose. Then, he said with a surprised expression, Oh right, if I'm not wrong, something seemed to have flown out just now, right? TSK, your Zhao family does have a lot of capable people. I'm really envious. Zhao Wendeng glared at him and warned coldly, Qin Tao Tian, this has nothing to do with you. I'm warning you, don't King get involved, lest you find trouble for yourself. Huh, how is it not my business? The green-clothed man called Qin Tao Tian spat out the toothpick in his mouth and continued to mock him calmly. Let me guess, you've taken a fancy to this young hero's female companion and want to bring her back to enjoy with your father, am I right? I've taken a fancy to her, it's none of your. What did you say? Zhao Wendeng was about to retort when he suddenly choked and glared at Qin Tao Tian with a flushed face. When Qin Tao Tian saw Zhao Wendeng's attitude, he became even more proud of himself. He said slowly, what I'm saying is, who doesn't know that the Zhao clan has two heroes? Both father and son love to do those despicable things, and they even like to play with each other. Like father, like son. F***ck your grandma's leg. What the F***ck are you talking about? I dare you to say it again. Zhao Wendeng was obviously hit in his soft spot. His expression turned even more terrible, and the veins on his forehead bulged crazily as he shouted loudly. However, because the black-robed old man was sent flying and the few servants behind him did not have high standards, Zhao Wendeng did not dare to make a move even though he was furious. He could only glare and clench his fists tightly as he endured it. The Zhao family has two heroes. Both father and son are despicable, and they like to play with each other. Like father like son, indeed. Qin Tao Tian repeated it 3 times in a row. Then, he looked at Zhao Wendeng with a smile and said, I have to repeat the so-called important things 3 times. Do you understand now? Do you want me to repeat it a few more times for free? Chapter 13:24. Good. 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 Zhao Wendeng was so angry that he already did not know how to retort. He said the word good 3 times in a row, glaring at Qin Tao Tian with eyes that were almost spitting fire. You actually also understand the principle of saying important words 3 times. Looks like it's indeed because of my teaching, ha ha ha. Qin Tao Tian threw his head back and laughed loudly, seemingly feeling very pleased with himself for ruthlessly humiliating Zhao Wendeng. Although Zhao Wendeng was unable to restrain his anger, he also knew that now was not the time for him to show off his might. He hesitated for a moment, but still did not give up, pointing at Qin Tao Tian and threatening, don't think that just because your Qin family has that little bit of power, you can behave atrociously in Yanlin town without the slightest scruple. Just you wait, I'll make you pay the price for today's words very soon. This little brother, looks like you and your friend haven't eaten yet, right? Do you want to do me the honor of sitting down and have a simple meal with me? Qin Tao Tian did not seem to care about Zhao Wending's threat at all, as if he had already blocked out his voice. He turned and looked at Xiao Chen with a smile, inviting him. Seeing that he was directly ignored, Zhao Wending could not help but become even more furious. However, the situation at present was disadvantageous to him, so he could only endure it and wave his hand at his subordinates, saying, "Humph. Let's go." But before they had taken a few steps, Zhao Wending turned around again, pointing at Xiao Chen and threatening coldly, "Brat, don't think that you can sit back and relax just because the surname Qin is protecting you. If you have the guts, follow him for the rest of your lives. Otherwise, if I run into you again, humph humph. At that time, I'll let you die even more horribly than old Senior Feng." No matter how Zhao Wending hooted, Qin Tao Tian still turned a blind eye to him. With a kind smile on his face, he made an inviting gesture towards Xiao Chen and Hong Zhu, indicating for the two to go up to the second floor to chat. Xiao Chen also did not pay any attention to Zhao Wending. Although he still did not know what Qin Taotian's objective was, after thinking about it, he still cupped his hands towards him, then led Hong Zhu up the stairs, chatting cheerfully and wittily on his own as he went up the stairs. "Qin Tao Tian. You'll regret your decision today. And that stinking brat, don't let me see you again." Zhao Wending had never been given the cold shoulder like this before. He immediately felt extremely embarrassed and cursed angrily at Qin Tao Tian and Xiao Chen's backs. Outside the hotel, more and more onlookers were attracted by Zhao Wending's scolding. Many of them had been bullied by Zhao Wending before. Now that they saw him cursing like a shrew on the street, but no one paid any attention to him, like a jumping clown, they couldn't help but be secretly delighted. Zhao Wending cursed a few times. Seeing that there were more and more people around, he finally realized that something was wrong. He snorted heavily, turned around, and left. His few silent subordinates hurriedly followed behind him. The scene changed to the second floor. Under Qin Taotian's lead, they arrived at a private room on the second floor and took their seats. Then, Qin Tao Tian instructed the lady boss to bring up another table of good wine and dishes. In fact, Qin Tao Tian and the others had already eaten a meal. This table had been specially prepared to entertain Xiao Chen and Hong Zhu, making them appear rather generous. "It is truly an honor to meet the two of you. I am Qin Tao Tian of Swallow Forest Town's Qin family." After everyone took their seats, Qin Tao Tian first introduced himself, then opened his mouth and asked with a chuckle, "Young heroes, looking at your travel-worn appearances, it must be your first time coming to Swallow Forest Town, right? May I know the reason for your visit this time? Is it convenient for you to introduce yourselves first?" Xiao Chen cupped his fists and said, "Hello, Brother Qin. I am called Xiao Chang. The person beside me is a junior sister from the same sect. Her surname is Hong, and she is also my wife. The two of us have come here this time mainly to search for our lost senior and junior brothers." Although Qin Tao Tian had helped him out of trouble, Xiao Chen did not speak the truth because he was still unclear of his character and background. Moreover, he had specially used an alias when mentioning the two of them. Hearing Xiao Chen refer to her as his wife, Hong Zhu could not help but blush slightly. She was a little excited in her heart. Although she understood that Xiao Chen was only saying this to prevent her from being coveted, who knew if it might turn out to be true as he spoke. Looks like she had to grasp this opportunity well. "Little brother Xiao Chen, let's see if you can escape from elder sister's palm this time." In order to conceal her little thoughts, Hong Zhu opened her mouth and asked, "May I ask Brother Qin, just who is that young Master Zhao just now? Why is he so overbearing? You guys are indeed from out of town. You don't even know Zhao Wending. Actually, Qin Tao Tian smiled faintly. He was just about to continue speaking when he heard someone knock on the door. Then, a waiter came in with wine and dishes. Qin Tao Tian paused. After everything was arranged, the waiter withdrew, closed the door, and then continued, that Zhao Wending is the third-generation successor of Swallow Forest Town's largest family, the Zhao family. He was raised in the palm of his hand, and is normally insufferably arrogant. He often bullies men and tyrannizes women in the town. Many people find him an eyesore, but they can't do anything to him. Xiao Chen nodded in realization. Holding his chin thoughtfully, he probed, so that's how it is. Looks like this Zhao family has a very deep background. Also, I reckon that there should be quite a few experts in their family. Otherwise, Zhao Wendang that brat wouldn't be so reckless outside, and no one can control him. And, Brother Xiao is right. Qin Taotian nodded in agreement, and then added with a face full of indignation, not only does their Zhao family have experts as many as trees in a forest, I heard that an Aurus Core stage consecrator came a while ago. This time, the Zhao family is even more lawless in Swallow Forest Town. They don't put other families in their eyes at all. When mentioning the Zhao family's consecrator, Qin Taotian's eyes still revealed a trace of reverence. His voice also unconsciously became a little softer. Oh, Aurus Core stage. Xiao Chen had a non-committal look on his face. It was just a Aurus Core stage, was it that awesome? If it was Xiao Chen who had just entered the Qi refinement stage, he might feel that this strength was as high as a mountain and could not be defeated. However, he was now at the peak of the 6th level of the profound ascension stage. A mere Aurus Core stage, he didn't even feel the slightest bit of emotion. Hong Zhu, on the other hand, frowned slightly. Her concept of cultivators was still stuck at the level of the inner martial arts world. She only knew the difference between Demon General, Demon King, and Demon Venerable. As for what level of cultivation the Aurus Core stage was, and how strong it was, she was also confused. She couldn't figure it out at all. Seeing that Xiao Chen didn't have any emotion, Qin Taotian thought that he was afraid in his heart but wanted to hold on. So, he patted his shoulder with a face full of righteousness and said, Brother Xiao, don't be too nervous. As long as I, Qin Taotian, am here, I think the Zhao family won't dare to easily find trouble with you. Chapter 1325. Then I'll thank Brother Qin's good intentions first. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and didn't refuse right away. Instead, he asked, I presume your Qin family also has considerable strength in Yanlin town, right? Otherwise, Zhao Wendang wouldn't have left the matter unsettled just because of a few words from you. Now that he knew the Zhao family only had one golden core expert holding the fort, Xiao Chen didn't care about that family anymore. He also wanted to find out how much weight the Qin family had. It's all right. Although our Qin family doesn't have the Zhao family's impressive tributes, even if we were to go up against the Zhao family, we wouldn't be afraid at all. Qin Taotian patted his chest confidently and said, because my grandfather is already a Foundation Establishment Great Circle expert, and there are faint signs of a breakthrough recently. If he can successfully advance, then our Qin family will replace the Zhao family sooner or later and become the #1 family in Yanlin town. That's really not bad. Hearing Qin Taotian's words, Xiao Chen only smiled and answered casually. He didn't make any statement. In Xiao Chen's eyes, it didn't matter to him whether the Qin family or the Zhao family could become the #1 family in Yanlin town. Moreover, Xiao Chen could also faintly feel that Qin Taotian's purpose of treating him to a meal wasn't that simple. Therefore, he only responded casually with a few sentences and cautiously didn't make any biased judgments. However, Qin Taotian didn't pay attention to Xiao Chen's attitude. Instead, he said to him earnestly, however, Brother Xiao, I still have to give you a piece of advice. After you find your lost seniors and juniors, it's better to leave Yanlin town as soon as possible. After all, I can protect you for a while, but I can't protect you forever. I understand what you mean. I'll consider it. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and nodded. He didn't say anything more. After sweeping away all the dishes on the table and filling their stomachs, Xiao Chen and Hong Zhu stood up and said their goodbyes, preparing to set off in search of the others. As for the kindness of this meal, Xiao Chen had no way of repaying Qin Taotian at the moment. He could only wait until he had earned enough spirit crystals in the future, then think of a way to repay Qin Taotian. A group of people clustered around each other as they walked to the restaurant's entrance. After both parties bid farewell to each other, Xiao Chen and Hong Zhu turned around and left. Qin Tao Tian thought for a moment before he suddenly shouted, "Brother Xiao, please wait, I still have something to say." Xiao Chen stopped and turned around, asking in astonishment, "Brother Qin, do you have anything else to tell me?" Qin Tao Tian walked a few steps to the front of Xiao Chen and explained, "Brother Xiao, Zhao Wendang is a person who will seek revenge for the smallest grievance, so I reckon that he will bring a mid-level foundation establishment expert to cause trouble for you. If you don't mind, why don't you come to stay with us for a few days? I can borrow the Qin family's connections to help you search for your lost senior and junior brothers. What do you think?" The scene of Xiao Chen killing the opponent's first-level foundation establishment expert with a single palm strike just so happened to be witnessed by Qin Tao Tian. He felt that Xiao Chen should be quite powerful, and it was precisely because of this that Qin Tao Tian had specially stepped forward to help Xiao Chen out of his predicament. While they were eating, Qin Tao Tian had tried to probe Xiao Chen with a few words. Unfortunately, he was unable to find out Xiao Chen's true cultivation level. However, based on the power of Xiao Chen's palm strike, Qin Tao Tian estimated that he should at least be at the third or fourth level of the foundation establishment stage. Thus, when they were descending the stairs, a plan suddenly appeared in Qin Tao Tian's mind. This was why he had rashly asked Xiao Chen and Hong Zhu to stay. Many thanks for Brother Qin's good intentions. Since the Zhao family is so eager to court death, then let them be. I have my own ways to deal with them. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. Xiao Chen did not accept Qin Tao Tian's invitation. Instead, he directly shook his head and rejected it. Then, he turned around and left the restaurant with Hong Zhu. At present, Xiao Chen was in a hurry to find the whereabouts of Qing Menjing and the other women. How could he have the time to get entangled with the Zhao family and the Qin family? As for the so-called Zhao family experts, he did not place them in his eyes at all. Furthermore, when Qin Tao Tian had mentioned searching together, Xiao Chen did not believe that a family in such a small town could have many connections that would be sufficient to help him find a place that even his divine sense could not cover. Qin Tao Tian had completely believed that Xiao Chen would agree immediately. He never imagined that this fellow would actually choose to reject his invitation. He was immediately stunned on the spot. However, he did not become angry because of this. Instead, he rubbed his chin and looked meaningfully at the backs of Xiao Chen and Hong Zhu as they left. Just now, when he mentioned the mid-level foundation establishment experts, this Xiao Chang seemed to have a very disdainful expression. He seemed to be quite powerful. Could it be that his cultivation was higher than the foundation establishment stage? Young master, this Xiao fellow is actually so untactful. We invited him to a meal out of goodwill and even invited him back as a guest, but he still acted so arrogantly. Shouldn't we find a chance to teach him a lesson? That would also make him more cautious. When the middle-aged man behind Qin Tao Tian saw that he did not speak for a long time, he thought that Qin Tao Tian had been angered silly and suggested, "Are you crazy? This Xiao Chang's strength might even be above yours and mine. Besides, I still need to use him to attack the Zhao family. How can we become enemies with him over such a small matter? Is there something wrong with your brain?" Qin Tao Tian regained his senses and glared at him as he scolded. "Hee, I was just speaking thoughtlessly. Please be magnanimous and don't take offense. Then, what do you think we should do next?" The middle-aged man jumped in fright and hurriedly said with a smile. Qin Tao Tian pondered for a moment and immediately made a decision. With a wave of his hand, he said, "Let's follow them and take a look. When the time comes, we'll act according to the situation." After making his decision, Qin Tao Tian ordered his subordinates to pay for the meal. Then, he led a group of people and followed behind Xiao Chen and Hong Zhu from afar. From Qin Tao Tian's point of view, Xiao Chen's strength should not be weak. If he could fight with the Zhao family and kill a few of them, he would exhaust some of the other party's middle-level strength. Then, the pressure on the Qin family would be greatly reduced. After all, the Qin family was only slightly weaker than the Zhao family. However, it was precisely this slight difference that caused the Qin family to be restrained in many areas by the Zhao family. They were unable to continue expanding and could only stay in the Zhao family's shadow to survive. If Xiao Qin could make a move and weaken the Zhao family's strength, wouldn't that mean that there was hope for their Qin family? Xiao Qin brought Hong Zhu to stroll around Yanlin town for a while. As they walked, he used his divine sense to search carefully. However, he still could not find any traces of Qing Menjing and the other women. Hong Zhu even specially found a few stalls and asked if they had seen any strangers entering or leaving. The answers were all negative. It seemed that they had not appeared here at all. Helpless, Xiao Chen and Hong Zhu could only decide to leave Yanlin town and search other places. Chapter 1326. Qin Taotian's group, who were following behind Xiao Chen, was at a loss when they saw Xiao Chen and Hong Zhu walking towards the outskirts. Qin Taotian pondered for a moment, then instructed his subordinates to report back to the Qin family. Then, he and the middle-aged man continued to follow Xiao Chen from afar. Qin Taotian had his own calculations. If Xiao Chang and the Zhao family clashed in the outskirts, then they would definitely unleash their full strength and fight. At this time, two situations would occur. One was that Xiao Chang was indeed, as he had said, very strong and had exhausted most of the other party's energy. Then, when the time came, he could step forward and harvest the remaining shrimp soldiers and crab generals, reaping the benefits when the sandpiper and clam fight. On the other hand, if Xiao Chen was defeated, then he would observe exactly what level he was at. Then, he would consider whether he should help him and block the Zhao clan's attack, doing this guy a favor and saving his life. At the same time, he could rope him in for his own use. Very quickly, Xiao Chen and Hong Zhu left Swallow Forest Town, heading towards the outskirts. After walking for a short distance, Hong Zhu suddenly thought of something, and asked, "Right, little brother Xiao Chen, I felt that black-robed old man seemed to be quite powerful. His cultivation was quite a bit higher than mine, but in the end, he was actually sent flying by a single palm strike from you. What level are you at now?" "Well, with your current level of knowledge, it will be very difficult for me to explain it to you in a short time." For a moment, Xiao Chen did not know how to explain the division of cultivators to Hong Zhu, so he could only give a vague answer. "What's so hard to explain?" "If you can't explain it in a short time, then you'll have to spend more time." Hong Zhu coquettishly rolled her eyes at Xiao Chen and teased, "In any case, the two of us will be staying together for a very long time. We need to find something to do so we won't feel bored, don't you think so?" In short, you just need to understand one thing, and that is that I am much more awesome than that Yanlin town's clan." Xiao Chen rubbed his nose and gave a simple answer. It was not that Xiao Chen did not have the patience to explain things to Hong Zhu, it was just that his spiritual sense had already sensed that there were two groups of people following him, so he did not want to waste any more time on this matter. Of the two groups, one was Qin Taotian and a middle-aged man. They seemed to have eaten together earlier. The other group only had one person. However, that person's cultivation was clearly higher. That was because Qin Taotian and the others did not notice that person's existence. Originally, when Xiao Chen left Swallow Forest Town, he planned on using flying swords instead of walking. However, when he considered that there were still people following behind him, he also restrained this thought, thinking that he should first keep a low profile for a while, so as to avoid letting others see through his cultivation. Besides, after coming to the immortal cultivation world, Xiao Chen had not seen anyone flying on a flying sword. He did not intend to recklessly take risks just for the sake of transportation, so it was better not to expose himself for the time being. TCH, acting all mysterious. "We've already seen each other naked, so what's there to hide?" Hong Zhu thought that Xiao Chen was deliberately refusing to tell her and pursed her lips in dissatisfaction. That's a job requirement, there's no helping it." Xiao Chen's forehead was filled with black lines. This Hong Zhu was really too unrestrained. What kind of girl would casually mention this matter? Carefully sensing the distance of the people following behind him, Xiao Chen gradually quickened his pace, walking deeper and deeper into the plains, getting further and further away from Swallow Forest Town. TCH, what job requirement? Why do I feel like you seem to be enjoying it? Hongzhu chuckled, then changed the topic and asked, also, what's the deal with those foundation establishment and golden core cultivators? You seem to understand the division of ranks in the immortal cultivation world very well. Little brother Xiao Chen, why are you suddenly walking so fast? It's not like I'm going to eat you. We're being followed. Let's not chat for now. I'll find a chance to tell you what you asked. Xiao Chen continued to quicken his pace, wanting to shake off the two groups of people behind him. After all, the less trouble, the better. He also could not be bothered to get tangled up with these two weak chicken clans. It can't be. Why don't I see anyone behind me? Hongzhu was startled when he heard this. He subconsciously turned his head to look behind him, but did not discover the slightest thing. After looking around for a while, not hearing Xiao Chen's reply, Hongzhu turned his head back to look, but discovered that Xiao Chen had already walked several zhang away. He could not help but stomp his feet in anger, scolding in a tender voice, "Damn Xiao Chen, stinky Xiao Chen, you little scoundrel, can't you wait for me? Is there money in front waiting for you to pick up or what?" Really infuriating. Scolding was scolding, but Hongzhu still quickened his pace to catch up. If he got separated from Xiao Chen, then he would be in big trouble. The two groups of people following far behind Xiao Chen were also extremely depressed at this moment. Originally, when they had just left Swallow Forest Town, they could still keep up with Xiao Chen's speed, but as they got further and further away from Swallow Forest Town, they did not know what was going on, but the distance between them grew larger and larger. If it were not for the fact that the little girl was walking rather slowly, they would have basically lost track of him by now. Qin Tao Tian was leading his subordinates to chase after Xiao Chen with all his might. Suddenly, he heard a "so" sound. A red silhouette suddenly flashed past the bushes beside him, heading towards Xiao Chen's direction as fast as lightning. F***CK. What's going on? Qin Tao Tian immediately jumped in fright, clutching his chest with lingering fear as he watched the red figure gradually disappear from his line of sight. Just now, Qin Tao Tian had not sensed the existence of that person at all. At this moment, he could not help but secretly rejoice in his heart. Fortunately, that fellow had not come for him, otherwise he might have already died by now. Eldest young master, that person should be an expert sent by the Zhao family. Based on his speed just now, I reckon that his cultivation is already at the great circle of the foundation establishment stage. It seems that Xiao Cheng will have to suffer this time. The middle-aged man squinted his eyes as he looked into the distance, making a cautious judgment. Just now, when the red figure flashed by, he had already sensed the other party's strength. However, since that person did not attack Qin Tao Tian, he did not make any moves to stop him and instead allowed him to leave. Oh. I don't think so. I've always felt that the brat Xiao Cheng is a little strange. Furthermore, from his and that girl's attire, they don't seem to be people from our Swallow Forest Town. Perhaps. F***CK, where is he? While he was analyzing, Qin Tao Tian raised his head and discovered that Xiao Cheng had practically disappeared without a trace. Hurry up, let's quickly chase after him. Without waiting for the middle-aged man to reply, Qin Tao Tian hurriedly waved his hand. While urging his movement technique to quickly chase after Xiao Cheng, he also added, "Look, how fast that brat is running. What I said just now is not important, we just need to quickly catch up and see how he deals with that fellow. Then, we will know exactly what kind of background he has." Chapter 1327. In fact, Xiao Chen's walking speed was not very fast. He was just moving forward at a normal pace, but because of his strength at the peak of the 6th level of the profound ascension stage, every step he took was equivalent to several steps of a low-level cultivator or cultivator, sometimes even dozens of steps. Therefore, the distance between him and his pursuers was gradually widening. As he walked, Xiao Chen suddenly felt that his surroundings had become a little quiet. Looking back, he found that Hongzhu was chasing after him with puffed cheeks and panting heavily, but she was unwilling to call out to him. Xiao Chen could not help but shake his head and smile. He stopped and waited for Hongzhu to catch up to him. Reaching out, he directly picked her up and continued to walk at the same pace as before. Humph. At least you still have a little conscience. Hongzhu pouted and knocked on Xiao Chen's chest, as he habitually began to tease him. Little brother Xiao Chen, since you like to walk so much, you might as well become my mount. In the future, if big sister goes out, how about I ride you? Being held in Xiao Chen's arms and smelling Xiao Chen's strong arms and masculine scent, Hongzhu's heart palpitated. The unhappiness of being left behind by Xiao Chen gradually faded away, and what followed was an inexplicable sense of excitement. Ride me, as a means of transportation. Hearing Hongzhu's slightly ambiguous words, Xiao Chen almost choked. His body subconsciously trembled, not knowing how to answer, so he simply pretended that he did not hear it and picked up Hongzhu as he quickened his pace. Little brother Xiao Chen, are we still being followed? Do you know who it is? Seeing that his teasing had failed, Hongzhu also put away his playful thoughts and asked in a low voice with a slightly solemn expression. Looking behind them through the crook of Xiao Chen's arm, Hongzhu found that there was indeed a red object faintly discernible in the grass behind them, but because it was too far away, he could not clearly see what it was. Yes, there are a total of 2 groups of people following us. One of them should be Qin Tao Tian and his subordinates, but I've already shaken them off. The other group only has 1 person. It's a man in red. I reckon he's sent by the Zhao clan to seek revenge, Xiao Chen analyzed logically. Actually, this analysis was also very simple. Because after coming to the cultivation world, he only had conflicts with Zhao Wendeng. Plus, the ones with some strength in Swallow Forest Town were the Zhao family and Qin family, so as long as there weren't any special circumstances, there was only this possibility. Little brother Xiao Chen, actually, I've always had a question. Hongzhu paused for a moment, then asked with a strange look on his face, why do I feel like I can't see through you anymore? Ever since we left Swallow Forest Town, I've always been following behind you. I remember very clearly that you didn't even turn around to give us a glance. How did you know that the ones following us were Qin Tao Tian and a red-clothed man? Could it be that you have some kind of superpower? I didn't know at first either. It's just that when I turned around to carry you just now, I accidentally saw them. Xiao Chen's expression did not change as he casually made up a story. Really? But I also turned around to look just now, why didn't I see anything? Hongzhu naturally did not believe Xiao Chen's nonsense, and blurted out a question in reply. Hongzhu had a faint feeling that Xiao Chen seemed to be inextricably linked with this cultivation world, but he could not make heads or tails of it for a moment. He also did not know where this feeling of his came from. Maybe it's because both of my eyes have 0 points of vision, so I can see more clearly. As Xiao Chen spoke without thinking, he silently calculated the distance between himself and the red-clothed man in his heart. After walking a few more steps, Xiao Chen felt that it was about time. Soon after, he leaped up and quickly dodged into the underbrush at the side. I don't believe. Hongzhu curled his lips and was just about to open his mouth to refute when he felt a blade of grass gently brushing past his cheek. Just as he cried out in alarm, his body was immediately covered by the underbrush. After hiding in the underbrush, Xiao Chen still tightly hugged Hongzhu in his arms, and then casually arranged a camouflage spell. Since he did not know whether the red-clothed man had other helpers or not, Xiao Chen decided to observe for a while before making his move for the sake of caution. Little brother Xiao Chen, don't tell me you're thinking of taking advantage of the fact that Menjing and Tang Tang aren't here to push this big sister down? Hongzhu came back to her senses and found Xiao Chen's posture. She could not help but smile coquettishly, and whispered in his ear with a sexy and charming voice, moreover, you actually chose to do it in the wild. I didn't expect that although you look so obedient and well-behaved, you're actually quite interesting. Shoo, don't talk, that man is coming. Xiao Chen frowned slightly and pressed his index finger against Hongzhu's soft and moist lips, wanting to stop her from talking. However, as soon as he pressed his finger, Xiao Chen immediately felt his fingertip slip, and his entire finger was suddenly wrapped by something warm, as if something nimble was constantly teasing his index finger. Xiao Chen could not help but shiver. When he looked down, he found that Hong Zhu had his index finger in her mouth, and was even slowly licking his fingertip with her tongue. The way she looked at Xiao Chen was exuding a strong sense of seduction, and the tips of her eyebrows and the corners of her eyes were filled with endless amorous feelings. Her finger was also gently caressing Xiao Chen's pectoral muscles and biceps. Xiao Chen was really helpless against this little demoness, Hong Zhu. What kind of situation was this, and yet she still had the mood to tease him? Glaring at Hong Zhu in annoyance, Xiao Chen was about to withdraw his finger, when he suddenly heard the sound of hurried footsteps approaching from afar. Xiao Chen craned his neck to look, and to his surprise, the person running towards him was the man in red who had been following closely behind him. What the hell? Where did that brat run off to with that girl? Don't tell me that he suddenly got excited and hid in the woods to have some wild sex. The man in red searched the surrounding area for a long time, but did not find Xiao Chen and Hong Zhu, who were very close to him. He could not help but angrily curse, I clearly saw them burrow into the bushes, so why can't I even see their shadows now? Could it be that I, your father, was mistaken? Xiao Chen quietly waited for a while, and after confirming that there were no signs of anyone else besides Qin Taotian's group behind the man in red, he felt relieved. He immediately cancelled the camouflage, stood up with Hong Zhu in his arms, and sneered, Hey! What are you looking for? This young master is right here. I didn't think that you would actually be blind despite having such a large pair of eyes. Who's there? The man in red with very large eyes was so frightened by the sudden voice that he stumbled back a few steps. After that, he came to his senses and immediately turned around. He stared with his large eyes, and discovered that Xiao Chen was leisurely standing there with Hong Zhu in his arms, and was looking at him with a faint smile on his face. Chapter 13:28. Upon seeing this, the man in red subconsciously lowered his head to look at where Xiao Chen was hiding, but he did not see any hole in the ground. Moreover, he remembered that he had specifically inspected that area just now, and there was nothing special about it other than the lush underbrush. How could he not have discovered them? Shaking his head, the man in red cast aside his doubts and glared at Xiao Chen, shouting, Brat, you're finally willing to show yourself. I've been looking for you for a long time. Hurry up and tell me, where were you hiding with that girl just now? Why are you asking so many questions? Do you have something on or not? If you don't, then hurry up and get lost. Don't get in the way of our lovey-dovey. A single dog will be struck by lightning. Xiao Chen said lazily. He even waved his hand impatiently, as if he was dismissing a beggar. Since the other party was alone, there was nothing for him to worry about. Hong Zhu secretly pursed her lips and smiled. Very cooperatively, she leaned her head on Xiao Chen's shoulder, then rolled her eyes at the man in red. Pursing her lips, she protested angrily, That's right, that's right. They're in the middle of a lovey-dovey moment. Why is a big-eyed monster like you suddenly stirring up trouble? You're ruining the atmosphere. Hee, you've offended the eldest young master of the Zhao family. Do you think you can get away so easily? The man in red sneered. His gaze swept across Xiao Chen's face, then landed on Hong Zhu. He immediately could not take his eyes off her. What are you looking at? Do you believe that this eldest young master will dig your eyeballs out and throw them into the river? Xiao Chen frowned and shouted in a deep voice. He was very displeased with the man in red's lecherous gaze. The man in red turned a deaf ear to Xiao Chen's rebuke. At this moment, his large eyes were filled with passion and lust as they swept across Hong Zhu's breasts and perky buttocks. Then, his eyes lingered on the curves of her exquisite waist as his breathing quickened. TSK, she really is an exquisite girl. No wonder young Master Zhao is so infatuated with her and even caused old Thing Feng to lose his life. The red-clothed man swallowed a mouthful of saliva and sighed with a vulgar expression. Xiao Chen's complexion had already sunk. He gently placed Hong Zhu on the ground, then moved in front of her in a flash, blocking the red-clothed man's sight. He said with a sullen face, You really were sent by that little bastard of the Zhao family. If I had known earlier, would have killed him back then. I wouldn't have caused so much trouble now. Seeing Hongzhu being admired by someone else, Xiaochen felt an extremely uncomfortable feeling in his heart. However, he defined this feeling as the anger of seeing his friend being bullied, and did not have any other thoughts. Ha ha ha. Stinking brat, it's too late for you to regret it now. The red-clothed man withdrew his gaze and threw his head back to the sky with a long laugh. Then, he revealed a sinister expression and stared at Xiaochen. He said coldly, "No one who provokes our Zhao family will be able to leave Yanlin town alive. You are no exception." As soon as he finished speaking, the red-clothed man pulled out a black wooden club from behind him. Then, his body trembled slightly and he revealed the cultivation of the great circle of the Foundation establishment stage. A wave of vitality instantly enveloped his entire body. Sigh, it seems like this Zhao family is only a so-so. This young master had thought that he could find someone more powerful to fight with. In the end, he only had a mere great circle of the Foundation establishment stage. He's simply looking down on this young master too much. I want to express my solemn protest. Xiaochen yawned and shook his head with extreme dissatisfaction. What Xiaochen said was not an exaggeration. Against this kind of low-level cultivator, he really did not have much interest in fighting. This was because, to him, they were basically just a move, and it was purely a waste of energy. However, after 2 fights, Xiaochen noticed something different. The people in the immortal cultivation world seemed to have to rely on all kinds of weapons when they fought, such as talismans or rods. They were different from the pugilistic world and the secular world, where they basically only needed to rely on their fists and legs to solve their problems. Xiaochen suddenly thought of Wang Fantian. That guy was not considered a cultivator, but he had extraordinary strength. Therefore, he could casually pick up all kinds of strange heavy objects and use them as weapons, using them to make up for his lack of strength. Stinking brat, I didn't expect you to be so stubborn. However, it's all right. While you still have time, you can say a few more words. Otherwise, you won't have the chance later. The man in red did not take Xiaochen's words to heart. He sneered and covered the entire black wooden club with yuan qi. Then, he forcefully waved it, and a tree that was so thick that it would take 2 people to wrap their arms around it fell to the ground with a loud bang. Hongzhu, who was hiding behind Xiaochen, could not help but jump in fright when he saw this. He thought that this person was much more powerful than the old man from before. Would Xiaochen be able to deal with him? Wow, you're so powerful. Xiaochen looked at the tree on the ground and clapped his hands a few times in amazement. He loudly exclaimed, I really couldn't tell that you were a woodcutter. The Zhao family is really full of talents. Ignorant child, have you never seen a person with divine strength like mine? After being ridiculed by Xiaochen, the man in red's face turned green. He was about to reveal his strength in an extremely displeased manner, but he was interrupted halfway through his sentence. Do you know why I lured you here? Xiaochen did not want to waste any more words with him and asked straightforwardly. The man in red was momentarily stunned when he heard this. I clearly did not expose myself earlier, so how did this kid sense it? He narrowed his eyes and asked cautiously, so, you know that I'm following you? Of course I know. Otherwise, why would I deliberately stop and wait for you? I've long since left you in the dust. Xiaochen shrugged innocently, the corners of his lips curling into a thought-provoking smile. Don't talk nonsense. I clearly saw you take that girl and hide in the bushes. Don't tell me that you're not going to have some wild sex. The man in red felt that Xiaochen was boasting and could not help but ask suspiciously. Oh, that's not it. I was going to hit you. As soon as Xiaochen's voice fell, he did not wait for the man in red to react. He immediately rushed forward and threw a punch at the man's chest. Shameless bastard. You actually sneak attacked. The man in red turned pale with fright. However, he was still somewhat quick-witted. Before Xiaochen's fist arrived, he quickly took a step back and used the black wooden stick in front of his chest to block the attack. Xiaochen had already guessed that the man in red would do this. However, he directly ignored the wooden stick and smashed his fist down. Gotcha! With a muffled sound, the black wooden stick was instantly smashed into pieces. Xiao Chen's fist did not slow down and landed heavily on the man in red's chest. Chapter 1329. Ah! The man in red let out a blood-curdling scream. His ribs had been dented by Xiao Chen's fist, directly piercing through his heart. His entire body flew backwards, crushing a few large trees before landing on the ground. He spat out a mouthful of fresh blood, his eyes were wide open, and he stopped breathing. He looked as though he had died with a grievance. At the same time, Qin Taotian finally arrived nearby with his subordinates, panting heavily. He just happened to see Xiao Chen send the man in red flying with a single punch, and the man fell dead on the spot. He immediately stopped in his tracks, turned around, and hid behind a large tree not far away, completely not daring to show himself. At this moment, Qin Taotian's expression was completely dumbfounded. In his heart, he was roaring crazily, "How is this possible? That was an expert at the peak of the Foundation establishment stage. He was actually killed by a single punch from that fellow. How is this possible? Could it be that I saw wrongly?" Taking a deep breath, Qin Taotian sneakily peeked his head out from behind the tree and glanced at the man in red lying on the ground. He discovered that there was a large hole in the man's chest, and there was blood continuously flowing out of it. It looked extremely terrifying. Feeling a gust of cold wind blow past, Qin Taotian couldn't help but shiver. He thought to himself, how strong is this Xiao Chang? Even someone at the peak of the Foundation establishment stage can be easily killed by him without a single scratch. One must know that even the strongest person in the family, grandfather, is only at the peak of the Foundation establishment stage. Looks like Xiao Chang is even stronger than grandfather. Could it be that he is already an expert of the Golden Core stage? The middle-aged man beside Qin Taotian was also extremely shocked. He wiped the cold sweat off his forehead, and his face was filled with disbelief. Secretly looking at the motionless Xiao Chen in the distance, the middle-aged man thought back. When he was Xiao Chen's age, he probably hadn't even reached the Foundation establishment stage, and was only at the Qi refining stage. Could this rising star be a disciple of some hidden sect or high-class family in the immortal cultivation world? The two of you over there, stop hiding. You followed me for a while, right? Why aren't you showing yourselves? Xiao Chen turned his head to look in Qin Taotian's direction as he spoke indifferently. His voice was just loud enough for Qin Taotian and Xiao Chen to hear. The reason why Xiao Chen did not deal with Qin Taotian and his subordinates was because he felt that Qin Taotian had a decent character. Although he suspected that Qin Taotian was using him, he did not have any bad intentions. At the very least, he had treated Xiao Chen and Hongzhu to a meal. Ah! Hearing Xiao Chen's voice, Qin Taotian was slightly startled. He exchanged glances with the middle-aged man and no longer dared to hide. He hurriedly walked out of the thicket and said with a smile, that. Lord Immortal, we don't know how powerful you are, so we thought of following you to take a look. If we have offended you in any way, please forgive us, Although he had never seen a Golden Core stage expert, Qin Taotian had heard his grandfather mention that many top-notch experts had very strange tempers. They especially did not like to be followed. Therefore, he was very regretful at this moment. If Xiao Chang took revenge on the Qin family because of this matter, then the entire family would definitely be burned to the ground in an instant. It was all his fault for playing petty tricks. He thought that he could hide in the back and wait to reap the benefits. He did not expect that he had made a huge mistake this time. Oh, since you have seen how powerful I am now, there shouldn't be any other problems, right? Then I'm leaving, bye-bye. Xiao Chen shook his head, feeling angry and amused at the same time. He turned around and left with Hongzhu. He did not expect the people in the immortal cultivation world to be like the Shishan giant bull. As long as they saw someone more powerful than them, they would call them immortal. Did they really treat them as gods? Qin Taotian was dumbfounded again. What was up with this immortal Xiao? He did not seem angry. Could it be that he would not attack his own family? That. Immortal Xiao, please wait. While Qin Tao Tian was still in a daze, Xiao Chen had already walked several meters away with Hongzhu. He hurriedly shouted and chased after them with large strides. Then, he bowed respectfully and said, "If exalted Immortal Xiao doesn't mind, would it be possible for you to come to our Qin clan and stay for a few days?" "Oh. Why do I have to stay at your house? Give me a reason first." Xiao Chen's heart stirred. He stopped in his tracks and looked at Qin Tao Tian with a smile as he asked. Right now, he was penniless. The money of the secular world was also not usable here. Since Qin Tao Tian was in a hurry to curry favor with him, why not? Although their family was very small and weak, he was in the dark in the immortal cultivation world. In a situation where he had no clue what to do, he needed someone to answer his questions. At the same time, he could also sell Qin Tao Tian a favor. Who knows, he might even be moved to tears. Just now, I took the liberty to follow Immortal Xiao. I feel very apologetic and would like to express my apologies. Qin Tao Tian hurriedly explained. Also, I believe that my grandfather would be very happy to invite a top expert like you to his house as a guest. Xiao Chen glanced at the red-clothed man's corpse not far away. He rolled his eyes and asked with a smile, "But I just killed someone from the Zhao clan. They'll definitely come looking for me for revenge. Aren't you, or your clan, afraid of being implicated by me?" "No. What's there to be afraid of?" Qin Tao Tian immediately patted his chest and said energetically, "Our Qin family is not to be trifled with. Also, Immortal Xiao, you just killed a foundation establishment expert from the Zhao family. I think they will need a long time to recover. They definitely won't dare to cause trouble for us." Although that was what he said, Qin Tao Tian thought in his heart, so what if the Zhao family comes? As long as you are in the Qin family, they will be seeking death if they come. Really? I don't think it's that simple. Xiao Chen saw through Qin Tao Tian's thoughts at a glance. He smiled faintly and said teasingly, "You dare to make such a guarantee because I'm here. That's why they won't dare to come, right?" Hee, I really can't hide it from Immortal Xiao Chen's eyes. Then. I wonder what you think. Qin Tao Tian scratched his head awkwardly and smiled sheepishly as his thoughts were exposed. "Alright, since there's nothing else to do, I'll go back with you to take a look." Xiao Chen pretended to be deep in thought for a while before nodding. Other than wanting to understand the situation of the entire world of cultivation, Xiao Chen also wanted to use the Qin family to find the whereabouts of Qing Menjing and the other women. Although the Qin family was small, there might be some information channels that he did not have. Instead of searching blindly in the world of cultivation, it was better to find a local helper first. That would save a lot of trouble. That's great. Immortal Xiao, please follow me. Qin Tao Tian was overjoyed and immediately made a gesture of invitation. He then gave the middle-aged man a look and asked him to lead the way. He accompanied Xiao Chen and walked forward while chatting. Chapter 1330. On one hand, Qin Tao Tian wanted to build a good relationship with Xiao Chen, but on the other hand, he hoped to obtain some information from Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen could naturally see through Qin Tao Tian's cunning mind, but Xiao Chen did not pay much attention to it. He chatted with him from time to time. Whenever it came to his origins and specific strength, Xiao Chen's answers were quite perfunctory, and he would just beat around the bush. Towards Xiao Chen's vague answers, Qin Tao Tian was also somewhat helpless. After asking a few more times, he understood that Xiao Chen was not willing to go into too much detail, so he did not dare to ask any further. After all, Xiao Chen's strength was unfathomable. If he said something wrong and angered Xiao Chen, then he would not have a good time. After walking for about an hour, the group once again returned to Yanlin town. Qin Tao Tian brought Xiao Chen and Hongzhu to the Qin residence, turning left and right. After entering, he first ordered a servant to inform his grandfather, and then politely invited Xiao Chen and Hongzhu into the guest hall to rest for a while. He also ordered someone to bring over some snacks and fruits for the two to enjoy. Xiao Chen did not refuse. He casually sat down at the seat of honor at the head of the guest seats. Hong Zhu sat down next to Xiao Chen and leaned against the back of the chair. Her posture was very alluring, but Qin Tao Tian did not dare to look at her for too long. This was exalted immortal Zhao's wife. If he looked at her for too long, wouldn't he be courting death? Not long after, a solemn and unsmiling old man in azure robes walked into the guest hall with steady steps. After sweeping his gaze around, he first glanced at Xiao Chen and Hong Zhu, then turned his head to look at Qin Tao Tian sternly and asked, "Tao Tian, I heard that you had a conflict with Zhao Wendang in the restaurant today, and even brought back two supreme experts. What exactly happened?" This green-clothed old man had a bronze-colored face, and his bright and piercing eyes were like sharp swords as they swept across the audience. Although he was already over 60 years of age and had grizzled hair, once he spoke, his voice was as vigorous and powerful as a large bell, without the slightest feeling of an old man lacking in energy. The green-robed elder was the head of the Qin family, Qin Xingling. Initially, when he found out that Qin Tao Tian had intentionally offended the Zhao family's hedonistic son, Zhao Wendang, in order to help someone out of trouble, he was a little displeased. He was prepared to teach this rascal a lesson when he returned. He didn't expect that after waiting for a long time, he just heard the servant report that young Master Qin had returned, but at the same time, he also brought back two experts. The anger in Qin Xingling's heart immediately turned into confusion. When Qin Xingling stepped into the living room and saw Xiao Chen and Hong Zhu, his heart skipped a beat. He thought to himself, Tao Tian, this little bastard, he wasn't deceived, was he? These two people looked very young. They didn't look like top-notch experts at all. Could it be that they had colluded with Zhao Wendang and purposely set up a scene of a dispute, using this as a pretext to infiltrate the Qin family as spies? Grandfather, don't be anxious. Listen to me slowly, it's like this. Qin Tao Tian was very clear about his grandfather's suspicious and cautious temperament. He was afraid that his grandfather would say something that would offend exalted immortal Xiao in a moment of doubt, so he hurriedly described in detail how Xiao Chen had killed a Foundation establishment expert with a single palm strike, and then instantly killed a Foundation establishment expert with a single punch. Hiss, Qin Xingling sucked in a breath of cold air after he finished listening. With an expression of disbelief, he asked suspiciously, "You're saying that the two Foundation establishment experts sent by the Zhao family were both killed? And one of them was even at the Foundation establishment peak?" That's right, that's right. Qin Tao Tian nodded his head repeatedly. He pointed at Xiao Chen and introduced, "This is exalted immortal Xiao, the one who killed the two experts from the Zhao family. I invited him to our house as a guest." At this moment, Qin Xingling's expression had already regained its calm. He turned around and sized up Xiao Chen. His face revealed just the right amount of doubt, and he said calmly, "From what Tao Tian said, you're that Xiao Chang who killed the two experts from the Zhao family with one move." How could Xiao Chen not see the doubt in the green-robed elder's eyes? However, he was too lazy to explain, so he nodded his head casually. Qin Xingling narrowed his eyes and looked at the unmoving Xiao Chen. He asked with slight doubt, "This makes this old man a little confused. This little brother looks so young. Could it be that the people from the Zhao family are all good-for-nothings? How could they be so easily killed by you? It sounds a little fishy." From Qin Xingling's point of view, the experts in the immortal cultivation world should be older elders. At the very least, they should be middle-aged men. Although Qin Tao Tian addressed him as exalted immortal Xiao, this exalted immortal looked a little too young, right? Not to mention the seductive girl beside him. No matter how he looked at her, she did not look like an expert at all. Grandfather. How can you say that? Although exalted immortal Xiao is young, he does have the ability. The scene where he killed the two experts from the Zhao family, Uncle Nong and I saw it with our own eyes. Qin Tao Tian saw that his grandfather was still a little doubtful, so he hurriedly pointed at the middle-aged man beside him. The man who was addressed as Uncle Nong nodded his head, indicating that he had indeed witnessed the entire process. "Oh. Is that so? Qin Xingling frowned. He still felt that his grandson might have been tricked. Perhaps the other party had purposely set up this scene for them to see. As long as he could get his hands on a suitable tool, this silly kid would definitely fall for it immediately. Of course. Qin Taotian's back was drenched in cold sweat. He hurriedly turned his head and smiled apologetically at Xiao Chen. That. Exalted immortal Xiao, please don't take it to heart. My grandfather is old, and his thinking is more old-fashioned. He is not able to adapt to the trends of the new era. Oh, it doesn't matter. Xiao Chen put down the melon seeds in his mouth and stood up expressionlessly. He looked coldly at Qin Xingling and said casually, since old Master Qin has doubts about my ability, then let me verify it a little. After saying that, Xiao Chen released a faint pressure that enveloped Qin Xingling and Qin Taotian. Qin Xingling's expression was a little puzzled at first. He did not know how Xiao Chen was going to verify his ability. Could it be that he was going to find someone else to fight? Before the thoughts in his mind could finish spinning, Qin Xingling immediately felt the temperature in the living room drop abruptly. A vast and ghastly pressure that blotted out the sky and covered the earth assaulted his face. The air was filled with a feeling of suffocation and death. It was as if an enormous ancient ferocious beast was baring its ferocious fangs at him. Qin Xingling's expression changed drastically. He could not be bothered to say anything else. He hurriedly circulated the primordial qi in his body to resist. Exalted. Immortal Xiao. You are a magnanimous person. Please don't stoop to my grandfather's level. Qin Taotian's legs were also trembling from the pressure. He could not even speak clearly. With a pained expression, he stammered for mercy. Chapter 1331. Yes. Exalted immortal Xiao, I was wrong, very wrong. I already believe that you have the ability to kill a Foundation establishment stage expert. Qin Xingling was also drenched in sweat at this time, and his face was green as he added with difficulty. Although Qin Xingling had already reached the peak of the Foundation establishment stage, he still felt breathless when he faced the terrifying pressure that Xiao Chen exuded. It was as if his life would be taken away at any time. You believe me? You don't need me to continue to prove it? Xiao Chen asked in return. Seeing the grandfather and grandson nodding desperately, a faint smile appeared on his face. He retracted the pressure and folded his arms in front of his chest. With a plop, the pressure on Qin Taotian's back was relieved. Instead, his legs turned to jelly and he directly knelt on the ground. Qin Xingling was slightly better and could still stand, but he was also panting heavily. Looking at the demonic smile on Xiao Chen's face, Qin Xingling wiped the sweat from his forehead guiltily. Judging from the pressure just now, the expert in front of him was at least at the peak of the golden core stage. How could he be so stupid? He actually offended such a great expert. Xiao Chen shook his head as he looked at the two people in a sorry state and the silent Uncle Nong beside them. He clicked his tongue and sighed. I remember there's a saying. How does it go? It seems that if you don't listen to your grandson, you will suffer. It seems that the ancients did not deceive me. Since you have no doubts about my strength now, we can finally sit down and have a good chat. Hearing Xiao Chen's mockery, Qin Xingling could not help but look embarrassed. He hurriedly bowed and made an inviting gesture. He said humbly, Exalted immortal Xiao, I have offended you just now. It is because I have to take care of such a family all day and the affairs are complicated. I was blinded for a moment. I hope you will not take it to heart. Come, exalted immortal, please take a seat. Qin Xingling did not want to sit on the main seat and insisted that Xiao Chen sit on it. Xiao Chen tried to refuse a few words. Seeing that he could not dissuade him, he no longer modestly declined and directly sat on the main seat. Hongzhu, who had been sitting on the side, was dumbfounded. What happened? How did Xiao Chen suddenly become so powerful? Although the major clans and sects in the martial arts world all followed his lead, Hongzhu had always thought that it was because Xiao Chen had relied on his intelligence to scheme. But this was the cultivation world. Xiao Chen had never revealed his intelligence, so why did they all revere him so much? Furthermore, based on the conversation between Qin Tao Tian and his grandfather, the two people that Xiao Chen killed were actually experts of the foundation establishment stage. Xiao Chen was only a perfected venerable. Where did he get his strength from? This was too strange, and it didn't conform to common sense at all. Hongzhu looked at Xiao Chen, who was sitting in the seat of honor. He had originally thought that he had completely understood this little boy, but now, he discovered that he was still full of mysteries. He was so mysterious, so unfathomable. Hongzhu wanted to ask him immediately, but it was inconvenient for her to speak directly with the people of the Qin clan around. She could only plan to interrogate Xiao Chen when she was alone with him at night. Immortal Xiao, let me introduce myself first. Seeing that Xiao Chen had taken a seat, Qin Xingling also sat down beside him and said, "My name is Qin Xingling. I originally wanted to be arrogant, but after witnessing Immortal Xiao's strength today, I finally understand what it means to be a frog at the bottom of a well. I am truly ashamed, truly ashamed." Afraid that Xiao Chen would bear a grudge against the Qin clan because of his earlier actions, Qin Xingling also flattered Xiao Chen when he introduced himself. Old clan master Qin, there is no need to belittle yourself so much. I accepted young master Qin's invitation to come to your residence this time, not to ridicule your Qin clan. Xiao Chen waved his hand and untied the knot in Qin Xingling's heart with a few words. Xiao Chen also knew that Qin Xingling actually did not have much ill intentions. After all, a so-called expert had suddenly come to the clan, and he was so young at that. As the head of the clan, it was only right for him to be on guard. Immortal Xiao is truly magnanimous. This old man is extremely impressed. Qin Xingling nodded gratefully, then turned to Qin Tao Tian and said, "Tao Tian, Immortal Xiao is a guest at our residence. You must treat him well and show him all the proper etiquette. Do not neglect him." Qin Tao Tian hurriedly nodded in agreement, thinking to himself, "I was already very polite to him, but it was you who tried to put on a show of strength the moment you arrived." In the end, I was slapped in the face. After Qin Xingling and Qin Tao Tian finished their conversation, Xiao Chen said indifferently, "Actually, it's like this. My wife and I have just arrived at this precious place, so there are some things that we would like to seek advice from the local big families. That's why we came to disturb you." Immortal Xiao is too kind. We welcome your hospitality very much." Hearing Xiao Chen refer to the Qin clan as a big family, Qin Xingling's face almost turned into a chrysanthemum flower. He said enthusiastically, "I dare not seek advice. Please feel free to ask. As long as this old man knows, I will tell you everything." Qin Xingling felt that not only was Xiao Chen powerful, but he was also very good with words. He was at least an expert at the Golden Core stage, and he was only at the peak foundation establishment stage. Moreover, he was so young and would definitely have great achievements in the future. Qin Xingling had to seize this opportunity to rope in this expert. That's right, that's right. Immortal Xiao, please don't stand on ceremony with us. Just ask whatever you want. Qin Tao Tian echoed. Xiao Chen was silent for a moment, then said, "Actually, my wife and I are not from the world of immortal cultivation. We came from somewhere else. As for where we came from, there's no need for you to know, so I won't tell you." Qin Xingling and Qin Tao Tian were stunned at the same time. They did not expect that Xiao Chen would say this. They could not help but look at each other, a little dumbfounded. Xiao Chen took in the expressions of Qin Xingling and Qin Tao Tian. He continued calmly, "So this time, I want to understand the situation of the world of immortal cultivation first, then make plans for the future." When Xiao Chen finished speaking, Qin Xingling and Qin Tao Tian were still in a state of shock. They did not expect Immortal Xiao to come from somewhere else. This was simply too unbelievable. No wonder he had such powerful strength at such a young age. So he was not from this place. Could it be that everyone in the place he came from was so powerful? After waiting for a while, Xiao Chen saw that the two of them did not move. He frowned unhappily and cleared his throat. Qin Xingling was the older one after all, so he reacted first. He quickly said, "Exalted immortal Shao, I've lived longer than Tao Tian. Let me explain it to you." Chapter 1332. In Qin Xingling's heart, since they had such strong strength, what was so important about them being from the immortal cultivation world? The key was whether or not he could rope them in. Since they knew nothing about the immortal cultivation world, it was a great opportunity for him to express his goodwill. For a clan like the Qin clan that existed like an ant in the immortal cultivation world, it was already a blessing to be able to get to know an expert at the peak of gold core stage. If he could owe them a small favor, then why not? After making up his mind, Qin Xingling opened his mouth and slowly narrated, "Ever since I was born, the immortal cultivation world has existed for thousands of years. Not only are there unique cultivation resources here, but there are also inexhaustible treasures of heaven and earth." Listening to Qin Xingling's clear and mellow introduction, Shao Chen was not the slightest bit interested. He didn't want to listen to such a long speech at all, so he yawned slightly impatiently, indicating that he could skip this part. Unfortunately, Qin Xingling only cared about reciting history with great emotion and didn't notice Shao Chen's actions at all. Shao Chen could only helplessly interrupt, "Stop, stop, stop. I don't want to understand the history of the immortal cultivation world right now. I just want to know which large clans and sects are here, as well as the strength of the cultivators here. The rest doesn't matter." "Oh, so that's how it is." Qin Xingling's old face turned red, and he awkwardly apologized, "My apologies, exalted immortal Shao. I'm old, and I just like to talk about useless things." Shao Chen waved his hand, indicating that it was all right. Qin Xingling rubbed his nose, and continued to explain, "The immortal cultivation world is a very big place, and there are countless sects and clans in it. As for the strongest, this old man isn't too sure either." "It can't be. Your Qin clan should have been in the immortal cultivation world for many years. How could you not know which sect is the strongest?" Hong Zhu interrupted with some astonishment. Heroine, don't think that our Qin clan has some foundation. To put it bluntly, we are only a small clan in Yanlin town. The other one is the Zhao clan that you met today." At the mention of the Zhao family, Qin Xingling raised his eyebrows in disdain and snorted. Although their strength is slightly higher than the Qin families, they are still mediocre in the immortal cultivation world. No one will know even if I tell them. Shao Chen had already expected this. How powerful could a family like this be when the highest level was at the gold core stage? If this kind of clan could be famous in the immortal cultivation world, then there was basically nothing to see in this place. What about cultivators? Are there many cultivators here? How strong are they? Shao Chen asked after pondering for a while. As for cultivators, Qin Xingling thought about it and shook his head. "I wonder what kind of cultivators you are referring to, exalted immortal Shao. In our immortal cultivation world, the people who usually cultivate are collectively referred to as immortal cultivators. As for the cultivators you mentioned, they are basically low-level martial cultivators and devil cultivators." "What did you say?" Hong Zhu abruptly stood up, a look of shock on his face as he asked, "Isn't this a little too exaggerated? You said that martial cultivators and demonic cultivators are low-level cultivators? How is this possible? Could it be that there is a big gap between them and immortal cultivators?" Qin Xingling looked at Hong Zhu with some bewilderment. He did not know why Hong Zhu had such a big reaction. However, he still drank a mouthful of tea and explained in full detail, "It is indeed like this. Martial cultivators and devil cultivators in the immortal cultivation world work for immortal cultivators. They are usually outer disciples of clans or sections. Usually, they will do some trivial things, or dirty and tiring work that requires physical strength. This." Hong Zhu opened her mouth, feeling extremely depressed and speechless. He did not expect that the cultivators who were so awesome in the inner martial world would only be doing odd jobs for others in the immortal cultivation world. Moreover, it did not sound very honorable, as if they were looked down upon by others. Wasn't this disparity too big? Old Patriarch Qin, from your tone, this Yanlin town doesn't seem to be much in the immortal cultivation world? Xiaochen frowned and asked with some concern, then, do you know how many similar towns there are in the immortal cultivation world besides Yanlin town? Is there an even larger city? Although he had a rough understanding of the strength of the immortal cultivators here, Xiaochen still had another matter to worry about. Just Yanlin town alone was so big. If Qing Menjing and the others were scattered all over the immortal cultivation world when they were transported here, then wouldn't it be very difficult for him to find them? It might even take a few years. Yes, but there is no such thing as a city in our immortal cultivation world. Yanlin town is the smallest town, and there are also some villages beside it. Further up are the prefectures. Oh, that's right, some businessmen like to call prefectures cities. Then, there are many small towns like our Yanlin town in every prefecture. Together, they form a large prefecture. Qin Xingling explained. Oh. Then does every prefecture have a provincial capital? In other words, those towns that are cultural and political centers? And which prefecture does your Yanlin town belong to? Xiaochen felt that the composition of the immortal cultivation world was actually not too different from that of the secular world. They were all made up of various small towns, and they just changed the names. Yes, there is. The largest prefecture city in the prefecture is actually the most central town. Whatever the name of the prefecture is, that town is called that. Qin Xingling sighed and continued, as for our Yanlin town, it is already a small town at the edge of the entire prefecture. Even in the immortal cultivation world, it is considered very peripheral. Normally, we don't go to the prefecture too much, so we don't know too much. What's the reason for that? Don't you need to do business and trade? Hearing Qin Xingling say this, Xiaochen asked with some doubt, besides, you only have such a small town, so it's quite inconvenient. Some things can only be found in the prefecture, right? Xiaochen suddenly thought of a reason. Could it be that because Yanlin town was really too remote, and it was very inconvenient to go to the prefecture, so the Qin and Zhao families chose to stay here and be local tycoons? Anyway, the mountains were high and the emperor was far away, and others couldn't care less about this place. Naturally, they were happy to be free and unfettered. That's right, but it's not that we don't want to go, it's just that we're too scared. Qin Xingling shook his head, and there was some fear in his expression. Exalted Immortal Xiao, you might not know this, but although the Qin family usually does some small business, we have to be extremely careful when we go to the prefecture. Hearing this unexpected answer, Xiaochen was even more puzzled. He asked with some confusion, why is that? Could it be that there are scourges and fierce beasts in the prefecture? Or do we have to pay very high taxes after we go there? Chapter 1333. Neither. It's just that there are a lot of cultivators there, and they are very powerful. Qin Xingling's face was full of lingering fear. Obviously, he had experienced it himself. He replied with a little fear, take the Lucian prefecture, which is the closest to our Yanlin town, for example. The streets are full of experts in the foundation establishment stage, and there are even quite a few in the golden core stage. It's simply impossible to guard against. Impossible to guard against? Could it be that there are cultivators who dare to openly rob you when you go there to do some small business? Hearing this, Xiaochen could not help but feel very puzzled and worried. It sounded like the world of cultivators was also quite chaotic. He hoped that Qing Menjing and the others would not encounter any danger. Alas, Immortal Xiao, you don't know. Robbery is considered a good thing. Qin Xingling sighed helplessly and said, because the Lucian prefecture is located in the most remote northwest of the entire world of cultivators, the atmosphere here is also extremely bad. Those powerful cultivators usually wander on the road, and murder and robbery happen from time to time. Really? So brutal? Xiao Chen was taken aback. He hurriedly asked, are there no rules and regulations that can govern this? The system and regulation are useless. Qin Xingling said bitterly, not to mention the system, even the Parliament of Cultivators can't control those people. They can't intervene when something happens. They can only turn a blind eye to it. It's so serious. What kind of organization is the Parliament of Cultivators you mentioned? Xiaochen frowned more and more, and the feeling of uneasiness in his heart grew stronger. Although Qing Menjing had reached the peak of the original infant stage after the previous sacrificial ceremony, she was extremely lacking in actual combat experience. She could make do with novices, but if she encountered a more cunning cultivator, the consequences would probably be unimaginable. As for Tang Tang and Yu Shaochuan, there was no need to mention them. Even if the latter had practiced the evil chrysanthemum treasure book, it would not be of much use in this cultivation world where masters were as numerous as the clouds. Needless to say, the former was useless. After all, the so-called cultivators could only work for others here. As for the old guys from the cultivation sect, he hoped that they could be sent to a safer place. As for the ghost cultivation sect, it did not matter. Anyway, they were a scourge as long as they were alive, and their lives had nothing to do with him. At this moment, Hongzhu also thought the same thing as Xiao Chen. He walked to Xiao Chen's side with a worried face and grasped his hand tightly. Although she liked freedom and wasn't too fond of the Hong family and the Song family, she didn't want to see any accidents happen to them as the family and sect she belonged to. The Immortal Cultivator Parliament was created by a few highly respected and mysterious figures in ancient times. As a supervisory existence, it is usually responsible for releasing news about cultivators. Furthermore, it has a branch in every county. Usually, it will also issue suitable trial missions to cultivators from time to time. Qin Xingling explained in as much detail as possible. After listening to Qin Xingling's introduction, Xiaochen felt that the cultivators sect was similar to the warriors guild in the secular world. They were both used to issue news and tasks, and were also responsible for managing the order of the entire world of cultivators. It was just that the intensity of management was not very strong. After listening to Qin Xingling's introduction, Xiaochen felt that the cultivators sect was similar to the warriors guild in the secular world. They were both used to issue news and tasks, and were also responsible for managing the order of the entire world of cultivators. It was just that the intensity of this management was not very strong. Qin Xingling shook his head and said with a bitter smile, "This old man is not very clear about this. Our Qin family is only a family in a remote town. With our connections, we have not been able to find out such high-level news. I am really sorry." Humph. What bullshit sect is this? Last month, our Qin family had a batch of goods robbed in Lucian Prefecture, and 3 experts in the building foundation stage were killed. If it was not for my father's great fortune, I am afraid that even he would have been left there. Qin Taotian suddenly cursed with a face full of anger. In the end, we reported this matter to the cultivators sect, but they did not even say a word and directly left it unsettled. Taotian. Be careful with your words and actions. Hearing Qin Taotian's words, Qin Xingling's expression immediately tensed up. He scolded Qin Taotian first, then got up and flashed to the door. He looked around outside the door and found that no one was nearby, so he quickly closed the door. After walking back, Qin Xingling's eyes widened and he sternly lectured Qin Taotian, "You can say such things casually at home. We can pretend that we did not hear it, but don't be stupid outside. The cultivators sect is extremely powerful. The entire world of cultivators is filled with their eyes and ears. If it is heard by someone with ulterior motives and spread to them, our Qin family may be destroyed in an instant." "Oh, I know." Qin Taotian's face fell, and he replied with his head drooped. In his heart, he thought, "Grandfather is too careful. There are no outsiders here, an exalted immortal Shao has just arrived. It is obvious that he will not betray the Qin family. What is there to worry about?" Xiao Chen was a little surprised by Qin Xingling's cautiousness, but he did not say much. Instead, he turned to look at Qin Taotian and asked, "How is your father's injury now? After all, I have studied medicine for a few years. If there is anything you need help with, just let me know." Thank you for your concern, exalted immortal Xiao. After being nursed by the family doctor, my father is basically fine now. He only needs to rest for a period of time, and he will recover to his original state. Qin Tao Tian was slightly stunned and quickly replied. He did not expect that a dignified exalted immortal like Xiao Chen would actually care about his father and offer to help treat his father. His good impression of this exalted immortal increased a little. Exalted immortal Xiao, it is getting late. If you do not mind, why don't you stay at our Qin family for the night? I will ask someone to prepare a banquet and clean up a room. What do you think? Qin Xingling asked respectfully from the side with a face full of smiles. Qin Xingling planned to make Xiao Chen stay and befriend him for a period of time. Then, he would try to see if he could rope him in. There is no need for a banquet. Just a simple meal will do. Otherwise, it will be too troublesome for you. Xiao Chen waved his hand and declined. It is not troublesome. Why would it be troublesome? The smile on Qin Xingling's face became even wider. He invited politely, exalted immortal Zhao's willingness to stay at our house has already brought light to our humble dwelling. A banquet is a small token of our sincerity. I hope that exalted immortal can do us the honor. All right, then I will have to trouble old Master Qin. Xiao Chen was just being modest. Seeing that Qin Xingling was so insistent, he did not say anything else. Chapter 1334. Just as Qin Xingling was about to say something, Xiao Chen suddenly thought of something and said, "That's right, there's something I'd like to trouble old Patriarch Qin with." Previously, when we arrived at the immortal cultivation world, we accidentally got separated from a few of our companions. Because we're unfamiliar with this place, we'd like you to help us find out if there have been any strangers in Yanlin Town recently. Do you think? No problem, this is not a problem at all. Although our Qin family is not as powerful as the Zhao family, it is not a problem to find a few people. Before Xiao Chen finished speaking, Qin Xingling had already understood what he meant and immediately agreed. From Qin Xingling's point of view, being able to work for Xiao Chen was a great honor. He immediately found a servant and gave a few instructions. Then, he specially instructed that they shouldn't limit themselves to Yanlin Town, and that they could also search the few nearby towns. Seeing this, Xiao Chen also described the appearances of Yu Xiaochuan and Qing Menjing to others. Now, he could only hope that these people had not been spread too far. If they could not be found in Yanlin Town, there might be some clues in the nearby towns. During the banquet, Xiao Chen chatted with Qin Xingling and learned that the immortal cultivation world used spirit crystals as the universal currency. To put it bluntly, spirit crystals were the advanced evolved version of the spirit jade that had been polished and forged in the inner martial arts world. Spirit crystals could be used as currency in the immortal cultivation world, and could also be used to absorb cultivation like spirit jade. However, most people would not be so extravagant. After all, the value of spirit crystals as currency was much higher than absorbing cultivation. Spirit crystals were the same as spirit jade. There were mines everywhere that needed to be mined, but these mines were basically in the hands of large families and sections. Apart from them, other people did not have so many sources of spirit crystals at all. Some ordinary families might work hard for a year and only earn a few dozen spirit crystals, which was enough for the family's expenses for a year. Just as Xiao Chen and Qin Xingling were chatting and exchanging cups, there was a group of people holding torches in the bushes in the outskirts of Yanlin Town that were half the height of a person, carefully searching for something. The leader was a guy who looked like a young master. Behind him stood a big man with a full beard. At this time, the big man's expression was a little unhappy. From time to time, he would shake his legs and yell at his men who were searching around. Obviously, he was very impatient. "Young Master Zhao, can you first tell me what mission you sent my senior brother to carry out?" The big man with a full beard seemed to finally be unable to bear it. He asked with a little anger. He has been out for a long time, and there is no reply through the sound-transmitting amulet. Now we can't find him. Is there any danger? How? How is that possible? Zhao Wendeng said with an embarrassed expression. Actually, it's not a big deal. I just met a particularly arrogant guy outside today. Not only did he kill Senior Feng with one punch, but he also deliberately made a fool of me in public. So I wanted Guardian Zhang to teach that kid a lesson for me. I originally thought it was a very simple matter, but I didn't expect him to be gone for so long and not come back. I don't know what happened. What? I remember that old thing with the surname Feng is at least at the first level of the Foundation establishment stage, right? How could he be killed with one punch? Is the opponent very strong? The big man with a full beard was stunned and asked with some doubt. It was reasonable to say that in a small and rundown place like Yanlin Town, there were usually very few experts. Because this was only a border town, there were no heavenly treasures to be excavated, and there were no spirit crystal mines worth mining. Therefore, ordinary high-level cultivators did not like to come here. Foundation establishment stage was already a very awesome existence in this place. I didn't see that kid's strength clearly, but according to my estimation, he's at most at the 5th or 6th level of the Foundation establishment stage. Zhao Wendeng touched his nose and said vaguely, if Guardian Zhang wants to deal with him, then it's like picking a snail with 3 fingers. It's in the bag. Seeing that the big man with a full beard was deep in thought, Zhao Wendeng did not want to mention his own embarrassing matter. He turned around and shouted at the servants, "You bunch of trash, hurry up and find him. Or else Young Master Zhao, things are bad." Just as Zhao Wendeng was about to get angry, a servant suddenly ran over from not far away. The expression on his face was very frightened and horrified, as if he had seen a ghost. Motherf ****. Zhao Wendeng frowned when he saw the man's reaction. He lifted his leg and kicked him to the ground. He scolded fiercely, "I'm just asking you to find someone. Why are you so flustered? You can't even do such a small thing, you're all ***king trash." No, young Master Zhao, please listen to my explanation. The servant didn't dare to rub his leg after being kicked. He covered the place where he was kicked, pointed in a certain direction, and said while panting, "We found Guardian Zhang, but Guardian Zhang has been beaten to death. The body is under a big tree not far ahead. Go and take a look." "What did you say? He's dead?" Zhao Wendeng was stunned by the servant's report. It took him a long time to recover, and he immediately rushed in the direction the servant pointed. His heart was full of uneasiness and anxiety. One had to know that Guardian Zhang was an expert at the peak of the Foundation establishment stage. Among the family's guards, apart from the Gold Core stage consecrator, Guardian Zhang's strength was the highest. He didn't expect that he would be killed. Who was the one who did it? When the big man with a full beard heard this, his whole body trembled. He took 2 steps back in disbelief, and immediately followed behind Zhao Wendeng, rushing to the scene of the incident with a face full of anger. After walking for a short distance, Zhao Wendeng found that a few big trees in front of him had been snapped in half. There was another tree that had been smashed into the ground. The scene looked very frightening. And under that tree, there was a man in red sitting facing the sky. His hands were hanging powerlessly on the ground, his face was ashen, and his eyes were looking in front of him with fear and listlessness. The ribs in his chest had collapsed severely, almost forming a large hole. Other than that, there were no other injuries on his body. It was obvious that he had been smashed to death by a punch. "Senior Brother Zhang." The big man with a full beard shouted, his voice full of grief. Then, he knelt in front of the man in red. His eyes were red as he looked at the cold corpse in front of him, and he heavily punched the ground. It turned out that this big man was the junior brother of the man in red. The 2 of them were originally cultivators invited by the Zhao family to protect the family. Usually, they were treated as distinguished guests in the Zhao family and were used to living like princes. Usually, they bullied the weak and ate well. They were very free and unfettered. They didn't expect that their senior brother would meet such a disaster today. Chapter 1335. The big man took a few deep breaths, then turned to stare at the servant who found the body and shouted, "Who? Who was it that killed my senior brother? Hurry up and tell me the truth. Otherwise, I will tear you apart. I don't know either. When I found Guardian Zhang just now, he was already dead. The servant was trembling in fear as he bowed and answered carefully. Guardian Zhu, don't be too sad. Zhao Wendeng, who was standing on the side, tried to persuade him. As the saying goes, the dead can't come back to life. I think we should let Guardian Zhang rest in peace first, then we can find the murderer. What do you think? Zhao Wendeng's expression was not good either, but he did not lose his mind like Guardian Zhu. After all, there were many people in the cultivation world who could kill the man in red in one move. They didn't even know who killed the man in red. If they rashly looked for trouble, it was very likely that they would offend some forces that even the Zhao family could not afford to offend. However, before Zhao Wendeng could finish speaking, Guardian Zhu gritted his teeth and interrupted him. Bury my ass. My senior brother died for no reason. Are we just going to let it go? Climbing up from the ground, Guardian Zhu stared at Zhao Wendeng and said coldly, Zhao, just tell me whether your Zhao family will do anything about it or not. If you don't, then I will immediately bring my senior brother's body back to the sect and let our sect leader make a decision. Zhao Wendeng was immediately put in a difficult position. Although the sect that Protector Zhang and Protector Zhu belonged to was not considered a famous sect, with the Zhao clan's strength, they still could not afford to offend them. If Protector Zhu sent the corpses back, the Zhao clan would definitely be greatly implicated if that sect leader came over in grief and anger. After pondering for a moment, Zhao Wendeng gritted his teeth and said, Guardian Zhu, how about this? Let's first send Guardian Zhang's body back to the Zhao family for a proper burial. It's not appropriate to just leave it here. Then, I will immediately ask someone to find relevant clues. When there is concrete information, we can make specific plans. What do you think? Okay. Then we'll do as you say. Guardian Zhu saw that Zhao Wendeng was quite sincere, so he didn't say anything more. He nodded and bent over to pick up the cold corpse of the red-clothed man. He turned around and strode in the direction of the Zhao clan. After all, his sect was quite a distance away from Swallow Forest Town. If he really wanted to bring the corpse back to complain to the sect master, then it would take too much time. If there were any clues, it might be lost by then. Since the Zhao family had the attitude of being willing to deal with this matter, then let's see their actions first. Seeing that Protector Zhu agreed, Zhao Wendeng didn't dare to delay. He quickly ordered the servants who were still searching to go back and collect relevant information. He was not willing to have such a corpse displayed in the Zhao family's residence. If this were to spread out, the Zhao family would not need to continue mingling in Swallow Forest Town anymore either. On the way back, Zhao Wendeng repeatedly pondered over the entire process of the matter. A familiar figure faintly appeared in his mind. It was that pretentious brat he had met at the restaurant today. After all, Guardian Zhang was sent by him to teach that brat a lesson. If he inferred according to this clue, then when Guardian Zhang encountered that fellow, due to his lack of strength, he was directly smashed to death with one punch. Then that person escaped without a trace, leaving only Guardian Zhang's corpse that died with everlasting grievances. But no matter how Zhao Wendeng thought about it, he still felt that it was impossible for that brat to have such profound strength. If he could even kill Guardian Zhang, who was at the great circle of the Foundation establishment stage, then when he was teasing his woman, why did he only think of leaving at the beginning, and not fly into a rage on the spot and kill him? One had to know that high-level cultivators in the cultivation world all had their own pride. They absolutely wouldn't allow others to humiliate them or the people around them. Otherwise, they would annihilate your entire family at any moment. And that brat didn't look like that kind of person no matter how one looked at him. If it wasn't that guy who made a move, then who was it? Zhao Wendeng pondered for a while again. In Yanlan town, the only family that could contend with his own family and dare to kill off the Zhao family's Guardian Zhang was the Qin family. Could it be that the Qin family's people were playing tricks in the dark? But how did the Qin family know that Guardian Zhang had gone out to teach that brat a lesson? And they even specifically sent people to that place to intercept and kill him? This didn't seem to make sense. After thinking left and right for a long time, Zhao Wendang still couldn't find any clues. Fortunately, when he returned home and returned to Yanlin town to enter the Zhao family's house, all the intelligence gathered by the servants had already been placed on his desk by relying on the Zhao family's powerful network of connections. Zhao Wendang first found a place to preserve Guardian Zhang's corpse, placated Guardian Zhu's emotions, and promised to immediately start the investigation. Then, he warned the other servants not to spread the news, and only then did he return to the study. Sitting in front of the desk, Zhao Wendang picked up the intelligence gathered by the servants. First, he filtered out some trivial matters that were obviously unrelated, and then removed the gossip of the neighbors. After flipping through for a long time, he finally focused his gaze on 2 clues. One of them was precisely the intelligence gathered from the restaurant he went to in the afternoon. According to the information the servants got from the waiter, after he left today, Qin Tao Tian treated that pair of immortal cultivators and Dao companions to a meal on the 2nd floor. When the waiter entered to deliver the dishes, he just happened to hear that immortal cultivator introduce himself as Xiao Chang, and that woman's surname was Hong. However, the waiter didn't know what exactly the 2 parties talked about during the meal. In the waiter's impression, after they finished the meal, the immortal cultivators bid farewell to Qin Tao Tian and left the restaurant. Qin Tao Tian seemed to have left after a while, and the 2 groups of people seemed to have gone in different directions. There was only so much content in this clue. The other piece of intelligence was sent back by the Zhao family's undercover agent in the Qin family. It was said that the Qin family welcomed back an expert with great fanfare today. Not only did the Qin family's patriarch, Qin Xingling, hold a banquet to welcome him, but he also seemed to treat him as an honored guest. It seemed that he valued this person very much. However, because the undercover agent was only a servant on the periphery of the Qin family, this rumor was only spread by the servants in the inner court. He didn't know much about the details, and he couldn't find out more information. Therefore, the content of this clue was limited to just a few words. Staring at the 2 collected clues in front of him, Zhao Wendang thought hard for a long time, but he still couldn't think of any connection between these 2 matters and Guardian Zhang's death. He could only stop helplessly. Zhao Wendang planned to gather all the stewards of the Zhao family tomorrow morning and have a meeting to discuss it. Perhaps with more people, the sparks in their minds would collide, and they would be able to think of a connection. Chapter 1336. In the Qin family's rear garden, in a brightly lit room, Hongzhu and Xiaochen had already finished their dinner and were leisurely resting in the room. Hongzhu was looking at the lantern in boredom when she suddenly recalled the question that had been lingering in her mind for the entire afternoon. Now that the 2 of them were finally alone, she lazily asked, "Little brother Xiaochen, big sister has something to ask you. I'll say it in advance, but this time, you're not allowed to find any other excuses to evade me." "What is it?" "Ask away." Xiaochen, who was in the middle of washing up, casually replied. Hongzhu cleared her throat and said, "Ever since I entered the cultivation world, I've noticed something. You don't seem to be unfamiliar with cultivators at all, and you don't seem to be surprised by the division of strength in this world. Even when dealing with those cultivators, you're still able to handle them with ease. About this, shouldn't you explain the reason to me?" Hongzhu's beautiful eyes were tightly fixed on Xiaochen. Although her tone was very calm, her tightly clenched fists betrayed the nervousness in her heart. "Oh, the reason is also very simple. It's because I'm a standard cultivator. With your intelligence, can't you see it?" After washing up, Xiaochen turned around and sat down at the table. He casually picked up an apple and ate it, then spoke without batting an eyelid. Since Hongzhu had already seen some clues, Xiaochen didn't want to hide it anymore. In any case, this was something she would find out sooner or later, so there was no harm in telling her now, lest she kept doubting him. Is that true?" Hongzhu blinked and asked doubtfully. Although she was already mentally prepared, she still couldn't quite believe it when she heard Xiaochen personally admit it. Xiaochen took a bite of the apple and answered vaguely as he chewed. "Absolutely genuine. I'm not deceiving anyone." Hongzhu frowned and thought for a while. Suddenly, a dusty past appeared in her mind. She slapped her forehead and pointed at Xiao Chen with sudden realization. That's right, I remember now. No wonder when you were in the secular world, you always went to Little Hong's pharmacy to buy some rare and expensive herbs. You did it for the sake of cultivation, right? Yes, that's right. At that time, I had just started cultivating, so I needed to borrow the power of medicine to help with my cultivation. Xiao Chen did not hide anything and nodded calmly. What? Are you kidding me? At that time, you had only just begun. Hong Zhu was taken aback, but he immediately recalled that he had tried to probe Xiao Chen at that time. At that time, Xiao Chen's strength was indeed not much, and besides having a relatively firm mind, his cultivation was a complete mess. He was nothing more than a weakling. Unexpectedly, in just a few years, Xiao Chen had already become an existence that even clans in the cultivation world had to look up to from a beginner cultivator. Wasn't this guy a little too powerful? Hee, speaking of which, I have to thank Pharmacist Chen and Pharmacist Lu in your shop. If it weren't for their generosity, I might still be stuck in the preliminary stage of the immortal cultivator, unable to make a breakthrough. Xiao Chen smiled as he recalled his experience in Xiao Hong's pharmacy. You're still talking about it. At that time, it was because you bought those strange medicinal ingredients that Grandpa Chen was very puzzled, so he reported your situation to the higher-ups and had Grandpa Lu come over to probe you. In the end, I didn't expect you to be so weak at that time that you couldn't get anything out of it. Hong Zhu curled his lips and snorted. Hong Zhu remembered that when Grandpa Chen had first started selling medicine to Xiao Chen, he had reported this situation to Hong Ying's team. However, she had a lot on her hands at that time, so even though she had received the report, she hadn't taken it seriously at all and had tossed it aside. Later, when the news that Xiao Chen had killed her fiancé, Li Shanpao, coupled with the previous news about Grandpa Chen, Hong Zhu's curiosity was finally aroused. Thus, she came from the martial world to the secular world and secretly tried to probe Xiao Chen a few times. In the end, she discovered that this guy's strength was ordinary and she could not get anything out of him, so she gradually lost interest. Aside from occasionally doing a few deals with Xiao Chen to earn some pocket money, Hong Zhu also began to slowly shift her focus to other areas, handing over Xiao Chen's matters to Medicine Master Lu, who came later. Later, during the summit between the righteous and demonic sects, Xiao Chen once again used the identity of the White Fox to display his extraordinary strength. Only then did Hong Zhu completely change her opinion of him, and the two of them could be considered to have crossed paths again. I remember that Medicine Master Lu asked me for a prescription, right? Xiao Chen said with a faint smile, but it seems that there was nothing else after that. It seems that I have taken advantage of your Hong Chamber of Commerce quite a bit. Xiao Chen remembered that Medicine Master Lu had given him a few doses of medicine in exchange for the prescription he had prepared to refine. Medicine Master Lu had also discussed the pharmacology of some of the ingredients in the prescription with him. The two of them had gotten along quite well. Yes, Medicine Master Lu was very interested in your prescription at that time, but after studying it for a long time, he found that he couldn't figure out the right way. In the end, he could only leave it at that. Hong Zhu hugged his legs and curled up on the chair, tilting his head as he recalled. As a member of the inner martial arts cultivation faction, Medicine Master Lu had keenly sensed something unusual when he saw the prescription Xiao Chen had brought. At that time, he suspected that Xiao Chen might have something to do with the world of immortal cultivation. However, when he submitted the report, Hong Zhu came down and found nothing unusual. After that, Apothecary Chen's feedback became more frequent. Apothecary Lu's interest was piqued. He went to Little Hong's pharmacy to get in touch with Xiao Chen and obtained the prescription from him. Unfortunately, he couldn't figure out anything from it. After he returned to his family, he didn't continue. If Apothecary Lu had started studying my first prescription, he might have been able to find some clues. Unfortunately, the prescription he received at that time was after I had cultivated for a while, so it's normal that he couldn't understand it. Under the candlelight, Xiao Chen felt that Hong Zhu's tilted head was very charming. His heart was slightly warmed, so he quickly raised his spirits and explained. That's not right. I remember very clearly that among the medicinal materials you bought for the first prescription, except for the bitter fruit, which should be commonly used by primary immortal cultivators, the other medicinal materials were extremely ordinary. At that time, I thought you were a devil cultivator. Hongzhu stared at Xiao Qin in surprise and asked, could it be that your way of cultivation is different from that of ordinary immortal cultivators? Hongzhu thought carefully. Among the medicinal materials Xiao Qin bought, except for the core materials necessary for immortal cultivators, the other medicinal materials could be bought anywhere. Could it be that he could also cultivate in this way? Xiao Qin had actually become a great master through this. What was going on? You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.